excited about being with you guys again this month.
Yep, we are here and happy to be here.
So Marriage Moments is something that has been dear to our hearts because we believe that marriages matter.
Yes.
Your marriage matter. And I believe that it came into our hearts a few years back, right?
Yeah, a few years back, we just realized that we were talking about our marriage with, using our marriage as examples and helping people with marriage. And so we just decided, why not? Why not start this?
Yeah, and you never know that God is just really depositing. You never know that he's doing that. Right.
As you're living, as you're doing life with your spouse, your family, everything that happens in every season, God is at work.
Couples shouldn't do life alone.
Right.
And so even if you feel as if, we just got married, you may be a couple steps ahead of another young newlywed couple. So we believe that every moment matters.
Yes.
And so every moment that you're in your marriage, something is taking place. God is doing something. He's developing you. He's teaching you. He's training you. So don't overlook it. Yeah,
right. It's almost, I want to say cherish every moment. We don't always feel that way during moments, though,
That's true.
But they do end up being the sum total of something beautiful if you give them over to God and allow Him to write the story. So
moments, when cherished, actually can really deposit something special into other couples, and as you reflect your memories in those moments, he's like, wow, man, it was nothing but the grace of God, and not only that, I really enjoyed that moment. So like every episode, we're going to ask you to rate, review, share, get this content out to someone that needs uplifting, encouragement, and building up in their marriage or their relationship. Maybe they're dating right now, right?
Yeah.
So we always have topics and questions and things like that, and typically Elena does well with that. And so I'm gonna go ahead and throw that softball out there. Go ahead and knock it out the park with the topic we're gonna do today.
Is that how you catch it?
No, you're knocking it out the park.
Oh, so it's a bat. Okay.
Yeah. Well, you can see who was the athlete and who was actually not the athlete.
Right. All right. So I'm gonna put my glasses on.
Okay, you can see that we're sharing our age with you as well. So we're sharing our whole entire life.
Yes.
Our age, our moments, our experiences.
Age,
that's good. That's a blessing.
I think so too. Growing old with Billy has been probably one of the joys of my life.
Okay, so we went through the end of my 20s.
Are we really going to go there? Let's not.
Okay.
We don't need the whole chronological breakdown.
Fellas, learn from that one. I shouldn't have done that.
The entire chronological.
Okay.
We'll just suffice it to say we're growing old together.
That's good. All right. So we're going to talk about, you're going to knock it out the park.
Okay, up to bat. Wait.
No, you are.
Okay,
I'm not batting with you.
Right.
I'm softballing, throwing you the ball. You boop.
Okay.
All right.
I knocked it out the park. I totally missed that one.
Okay.
I'm not too good with sports analogies. You know that.
Yeah.
We try to talk about relevant things to marriage. Obviously, this is a marriage podcast, but one of the things that we typically try to touch on throughout the season is sex in marriage, right?
Yeah.
Now, typically, the conversation is, sex should be saved for marriage. Sex is a powerful tool and all the things, right? And so, but today,
some people don't use it as a tool; they use it as a weapon.
Yep.
Yeah, well, you're not getting any.
Okay, babe, we're gonna stay on.
No, hold on. Because that happens sometimes,
Yeah, it's all in the talk.
Or
we're gonna talk
men
about it.
use it as a weapon, like to kind of control their spouse. So anyway, okay.
So today we're gonna be talking about. Let's talk about sexless marriages. Or
does that even exist?
you would be surprised, because there's like, it's like that big question, like what percentage of marriage would you say, what percentage would you say sex plays in a marriage?
Well, what I'm saying is, where would that statistic even come from? Who would talk about that? Like, there's a
people
stat
talk
for
about
that.
it.
So
people
there's
talk
a stat,
about it.
and is it true?
I don't know how accurate it is, but I have a little bit of data, and it says that apparently sex plays a really big role in a marriage.
Before you say that, what would sexless, just so we can be clear about the definition of sexless, so we can know what this topic, what does that look like? What is that? Sexless? No sex at all in marriage?
Either no sex or very, very few and far between moments.
What is far and few in between?
Like, I don't know.
Every Christmas, every birthday.
Yeah,
every
special occasions, that was mentioned. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Wow.
And so it's safe to say that you would say that sex is a pretty big percentage, plays a pretty big role in marriage.
I wouldn't say big, but it plays a role.
It plays a role.
I don't know, like, how to say.
Okay,
big or
if
little.
the whole entire marriage is 100%.
Yes.
What would the percentage be? Come on, you do percentages and stuff all the time. Over my head, I have no idea.
I'm not for sure. 15, 20%, if that, I don't think it's like half the pie or anything. That's weird.
Okay.
There's entirely too much stuff, to take place in a marriage. Communication, trust, love,
there's a lot
time.
of other stuff going on, for sure.
There's too much stuff to just, like, do you enjoy sex in marriage? Obviously a person would, but I wouldn't say it's been possible for me to say it's more than 25%.
Okay.
So I would say 15, 20%, because if I say 25%, that means a fourth of our marriage is about sex. And that would be a shallow marriage. Like, it's to me.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion. Now, some people may say, hey, it's 50%. But I need some Jesus. I need, I need some
other things.
A whole bunch of other things. It's a lot above that, on my list. So,
It is. I agree. It's not half the pie, so to speak, but... Okay,
you asked me, what's your percentage then?
I would say probably about the same, maybe even less for me, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like as women age, sometimes that changes for some women. I'm not going to speak for all women, obviously.
There's some cougars out there.
For sure,
There's some women that they...
Yeah, I get it. I understand. I'm just saying, of course, I'm not speaking for all women, but women that I've communicated with and just over time, it seems like marriage is, for me, I'll say one of those things like ice cream. I love ice cream, I do not want to eat ice cream all day, every day, for months, you know what I'm saying, or years or whatever.
Right.
So even though I love it, so I feel like it's like that for me. I won't say that for all women because I can't speak for all women.
There's too many other things to be doing.
And so because of that, I feel like that's why it's not that big of a percentage. But it plays enough of a significant role that it's actually in the top 5 reasons why people get a divorce.
What? Well, no, I can see that. I can see, because first of all, everyone does not have a biblical worldview.
Yeah.
Like, everyone's not seeing it through the lens of God or Jesus or even a religious stance. Everyone's not doing that.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Everyone has their preferences in life.
Yeah.
But typically, I would think if you don't have a biblical worldview or some type of lens through religion, your priorities may be different than someone. They're going to be different. It's not a maybe about it. They're going to be different. So I guess if you're, you're living in maybe your upbringing, or maybe if you have some type of sexual trauma, or maybe if, you just love sex. You may have no problem at all. You just love sex.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's, in your top 5, I guess, But that's top 5. Do you have statistics to say what the top 5 are?
It's. I didn't write them down here. Well, yes, I did. Hold on. They are lack of intimacy, like no connection outside of sex to the partner, financial problems, and just overall disagreement on how they're going to do family, how they're going to raise their kids. What does discipline look like?
What do they call it?
Irreconcilable differences. I guess all of that fits into that phrase, irreconcilable differences. Stuff that they just can't come to an agreement on, and so they decide to split. But for sure, sex is in the top 5 why people just say, you know what, you want too much or you don't want enough and I'm out, So.
I wonder, would a person regret that decision, like when they're 70 or 80 and they just aren't able to do that anymore, and they look back and say, man, maybe I should have gave that a shot, that marriage, and you kind of realize life is about a little bit more than that.
Yeah, I think that you alluded to something very, very significant, and that is trauma. I'm really big on dealing with trauma, whether it happened in childhood, teenage years, young adult years. Sexual trauma is definitely something that I would encourage people to get help with. Go to therapy, go to the doctor, get some type of healing going for yourself, because marriages may be sexless because people don't have a healthy view of sex. And so they're either abusing it, like I want it here, now, here, there, everywhere, all the time, because of some kind of trauma they've suffered and they haven't made that connection yet, perhaps.
Yeah.
Or because they have made that connection and that, sexual trauma did happen, it makes them shut down when it comes to sex and not want to participate in sex and feel like it's a burden or even an infringement on their body. I've spoken with women and I've listened to podcasts where women literally, sex with their husband is equated to you're demeaning me to this, you're objectifying me, you're making me your toy or whatever, and that's their view of it because of sexual trauma. And so I think that healing from that would definitely, or going on a healing journey would definitely help towards a healthy sex life in marriage. But there are couples out there who somebody is suffering, because usually that's not something that both people agree on.
They haven't come to agreement.
They haven't come into agreement.
Can I ask you this, Elena?
Yeah.
When you say sexual trauma, obviously that's like an array of things. It's an umbrella, and a lot of things fall up under that. Could you have an unhealthy view of sex just coming up? Say you were a football player, a sports jock, and you just, you had sex with women after every game, and you just pursued women, and then you finally get saved and you start seeing women differently, but could that be called sexual trauma, or is that just an unhealthy lens of sex? I mean, what is that?
Yeah, so I don't have the definitions down pat. I will say that. I'm not a licensed therapist or anything. But what I will say is that there's 2 types of trauma, right? There's capital T trauma, which is stuff like assault and rape and, being literally abused with being burnt and cigarette burns and all of that kind of capital T trauma. And then there's little t trauma, things that have just happened to us in life that we just kind of thought was life, but in reality it shouldn't have been going on. And I feel like sometimes, particularly with young men, they just don't have a healthy view of sex because they were never taught to have a healthy view of sex. So it may not be necessarily big T trauma, but maybe they learned sex from an absentee dad who just popped up and they did their thing and then he left, or, and they don't have that sense of commitment and love, and just sex is not something that has been cultivated in a healthy way. And so because it hasn't been cultivated in a healthy way, it's just not something, they just view it as something very casual when God never intended for sex to be casual. And so I think that might be the cause of that. I'm not sure though.
Sounds like it is trauma. It sounds like after you said those definitions that falls up under little t or lowercase t. Because I mean, if that's traumatic, if you look at sex from that view, it seems like. I mean, I'm not for sure if that.
I'm not either.
I mean, definitely you have. In that case, you definitely will have to be renewed.
Yeah.
your mind and your perspective towards women and towards, your approach to sex.
Yeah, and for that matter, women too. A lot of times when women don't have the privilege of being taught about sex and not only about the act of sex, but the mindset and the act behind the act of sex. Because and what I mean by that is, sometimes women are literally legit taught, maybe not with words, but with just seeing their mother's approach to sex, or even their father's approach to sex. They're being taught, indoctrinated, to use my body to, use what I got to get what I want kind of attitude about sex. Or they have I'm not really worth much, so this is what I have to offer, about sex. I remember when I was a young girl, a teenager, my dad used to always tell me, hey, Helena, if you go out on a date, you don't owe that guy anything. You don't owe him a kiss. You don't owe him sex. You don't owe him anything except thank you. I had a good time. Go your way. He goes his way. And that I used to be like, okay, daddy, I never really knew the value in that lesson until I got older. And you realize people literally expect sex just because you bought me some popcorn at the movies. And that's what they want. And so a lot of women reduce themselves to that. Like, thank you's not going to be enough because I'm not enough, but I do have, and so I feel like when you have an unhealthy view of sex, it's real easy when you come into a marriage, because you bring the sum total of who you are into your marriage, and when you haven't dealt with things, and you may not even see, that's something that needs to be dealt with, because by the time you get to be in your 20s, 30s, you're like, oh, sex, I know what to do, but do you really,
Well, I mean, the word that just leaped out of your conversation as you were speaking is one, training, taught.
Being taught,
how to have sex. Now, that's a big time red flag for many people. Okay, what does that look like? Like you said, how you can teach me how not to have an approach to sex. Maybe a parent that had a guy or girl pop in every once in a while, and they did their thing, and then they disappeared, and they did it again when they needed sexual fulfillment. And so what does it look like to train someone, or teach someone how to approach sex right? I mean, how would that look? Because there's people out there that may be single, or they just got into marriage, and now it may be like, wow, I got licensed to have sex, I'm married, God honors this. But so how do I approach being taught or trained to see and to have sex properly?
Well, I think it starts. It's a part of the parent-child dynamic, right? And so.
What if they didn't get that?
Okay, that's what I'm saying. Well, if you didn't get that, then I would say revert to God's definition and say, so if you're single, obviously sex is packaged in the gift of marriage, right? And so I would say do the biblical study on it, and see how God views sex and why he views it the way that he does, because sex is a powerful thing. And I think that when you don't have that understanding, it's abused, just like with anything else. When you don't know the manufacturer's intent for something, say like this microphone, if I start using the butt of this microphone as a hammer, that's not what it was intended to be used for, so therefore I'm abusing this. And so I think that if you're an adult and you've just never been taught, and all you know how to do is use what you got to get what you want, even in your marriage, then you should take a step back and say, Lord, I want to honor you in this area of my life. I think that people don't realize sometimes in their Christian journey, God wants access to that, that way of thinking. It's the way of thinking, your approach to it, And I think that we can take the big light off of the actual act of sex and start focusing on the mindset that leads us to that act, And so I think that if we go there and start saying, you know what, Lord, if at minimum you had no training, you just, kind of like grew up and so now you know about sex and so it's a thing. Well, if you want to honor God with your body, you can start there. You know what I'm saying? Like to invite Jesus into that area of your life, you know, because it all boils down to how much Jesus involvement do you want in your everyday life. Yeah. So if you involve Jesus in that, before you even get to the act of it, the Holy Spirit will start dealing with you, you know. And so when he starts dealing with you about, hey, you probably shouldn't be doing all that rubbing and touching and caressing and all of that, because it's probably going to lead somewhere, heed that warning. Or when the Holy Spirit says, hey, why don't you respect your body and dress in a way that's, you know, be you, but you don't have to, everything ain't got to be revealed or wiggling and jiggling and all of that, you know, let's respect ourselves, you know. And so just kind of being mindful of those things, I think. Yeah. I mean, and then of course, parent-child dynamic, you have a lot more leeway because you can literally train them as you go, like teachable moments. Yeah. You know, when you see you know, somebody manipulating or using their body for attention, or, you know, you can stop your child and teach them, hey, you know what? A young lady does this, that, and the third. They don't do that for attention, you know. As a young lady, you know, just kind of coaching them up, you know, on how not to be looked at, hey, you know, looked at as a young lady that's loose. Because I've haven't had experiences where, you know, if, you know, I've worn a particular thing and people start assuming things. And so I'm like, oh, okay, nah, let me, as a young woman, of course, you know, let me redo this outfit because I don't want to give the wrong impression, you know, that kind of thing. So I feel like that's all involved in training. I mean, I know that a lot of women, unfortunately, did not have what I had as a kid, you know, as a young woman growing up and being taught these things. But if you have Christ in your life, the Holy Spirit in you will help you walk this thing out. Because the Bible does speak about sex and it does give us guidelines, but sometimes there are gray areas.
And then, you know, not only just the Bible, because, you know, sometimes you can look at the Bible and it doesn't give you in detail, like how I'm supposed to conduct myself. Yeah. You know, it says stuff like, you know, the marriage bed should not be defiled. People are still trying to figure out, what does defiled mean? Yeah. Can we not have oral sex? Can we not do this? Can we do that? I mean, I'm just being real. That people just...
Or be sexless, you know.
Right. Yeah. So the reality is you know, you want to do life with people too. Yeah. You want to find someone and just be authentic and be real and say, hey, you know what, man? or hey, girl, I don't know what sex looks like in this new life. Yeah. Or, you know, I've already been there and I've kind of dealt with, you know, men in the past or ladies in the past, and I don't think that was accurate. But you know what? I really want to do it right. So let me ask you some questions, because we sit down over a cup of coffee and can you explain? And you may have to go through numerous of people, because, you know, some people, they may start speaking about some things and you say, nah, I don't think that's right. It's like me when I was picking my therapist. I went through like 5 or 6 of them first. Yeah. And it just wasn't setting with me. I'm like, nah, that doesn't align with my values, my core convictions and belief. And so you may do that with a person. You may.
I mean, I think that'd be good.
Yeah, I mean, because I mean, if it's just left to God and you, obviously we know we do life with people, you know, and it's just so important to do life with people and get people's perspective. And that don't mean that it's like just going to be 100% accurate, you know, but I think you'd be a little bit better off than just left with vague words. You know, that may not be clear for you in 2024, you know, and dealing with the things that you're dealing with now. Because some people may like to dress a certain way, and, you know, especially, like, we have a lot of generations now. So, like, you know, the baby boomer or the Gen X, or maybe even the traditionalists, those individuals obviously probably aren't going to be dressing like a millennial or Gen Z. And so then you got to find out, like, what is appropriate for me. And you're right. You know, a person, you know, may feel like, no, this is a little bit too exposed. Too revealing, you know, too revealing. Maybe someone approached me wrong because of that. You know, maybe this is too conservative for me. And so let me learn how to, deal with relationships that may or may not even get into in the sex world.
And that's so good that you brought that up, because I'm definitely not trying to throw shade or anything. Dress how you want to dress, whether you're saved or not. But if you're saved, and still dress how you want to dress, because how you dress doesn't. I feel like God looks at your heart, and all that. And so, I'm just saying, you don't want to send a message that you're not trying to send.
Right.
Right. That's all I'm trying to say. I don't even care. Come however you come.
Absolutely.
I just want women to understand that.
Learn how to, approach sex properly. Learn how to do that.
Yeah.
So that's what we're really diving into, is the sex. Or the lack of it.
Yeah.
So we were talking about the lack of sex.
Yeah.
And about how much percentage does an individual actually, what's the percentage you see sex from? If it's 100%, what is your percentage? I said maybe 15 to 20%.
Yeah.
But you say there's a lot of sexless marriages out there.
Yeah, about 15%, the statistic says. Here it is.
Pretty low.
It says about 15% of married couples are sexless.
That makes sense.
Spouses haven't had sex with each other in the past 6 months to 1 year.
Okay, so that's sexless. 6 months, that's a long time.
6 months.
But let's think about it.
To 1 year.
There's a lot of people that are married.
Yeah.
That are in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. So maybe that's that individuals. Because we're saying 15%, I doubt very seriously there's some 30-year-olds out there, 25-year-olds, going 6 months to a year. That's just downright torture.
Yeah.
What are we doing here? Not that it's all about that, but come on, man. In 6 months, all kind of stuff. Valentine's Day didn't pass by. My birthday didn't pass by. Anniversary. I'm old because I'm talking like sex is only reserved for just holidays. But I'm just saying Christmas didn't pass. You couldn't give me the gift of, come on, my Lord.
The gift of Christmas. But, it's happening. And I wish I would have looked up some, age groups for that. But, at the end of the day, it's happening. And most of the time in those type of situations, someone is suffering. One of the partners is suffering because they may not want to be sexless. And usually it's been my experience that I've observed that women tend to hold the reins on that
Really?
For the most part.
Well, why is someone suffering? I think I know the answer, but I'm just wondering what your thoughts are, because isn't that just simply a conversation?
Well, I would think so, but then we're thinking about people who communicate, and usually if there's no sex in a marriage, intimacy is could be probably low.
So
and if there's no intimacy, there's probably no deep communication like that. Maybe, I don't know.
So when you say intimacy, you're saying connection,
because sex isn't intimacy all the time.
I understand that. I'm just trying to make sure that our viewers know what you mean by intimacy.
Yeah, so intimacy is not always sex.
Right.
So because intimacy is not always, I think intimacy grows, and then it makes you want to be super sexual with your partner.
So because there's a lack of intimacy, meaning communication and connectivity, someone probably are not sitting down talking about, hey, I'm suffering here.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the reason why I say someone is suffering, because it may be even both. And the reason why I say that is because, let's just say you and I, if we had a sexless marriage, you would be suffering because you want to have sex, right? And I could be suffering because I have like a physical ailment or something that I don't want to talk to you about because I'm embarrassed, or I'm like just, I don't even may not even know what's going on with my body, and I'll just shut down in that area and just be like, nope, no sex, and all you hear is no, but we're not getting to the bottom of why?
Yeah.
Why not? And so I think that that's why intimacy is important, that connectivity, so that you can just pour out your heart and say, hey, look, it hurts, or I don't, I feel uncomfortable, or I don't know what's going on with me, or I'm going through changes, or whatever. So you can go to the doctor, you can, start working through things instead of just shutting it down.
That's the importance of having connectivity.
Yeah.
And communicating. And then you can have a collaborative effort towards the sex, and no one's suffering.
Yeah.
We already know what's on the table.
Yeah.
There's a plan. And I know many times, planning for sex can seem so boring.
Yeah.
But really, anything you feel is important, you plan for it. You put it on the calendar.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, we've never put sex on a calendar. Let's go ahead and say it. We never put sex on a calendar.
Put that out there, please.
We've never done that. That would be weird, right? And we got so many calendars. Think about it.
Oh my God. What if you put it on the church calendar?
Yeah, that would be weird. Like, hold up.
What is really going on?
So we've never put it on the calendar, but if it's important, you do plan.
Yeah. And we can go even further into that, like plan on communicating, plan on being healthy about it, plan on a healthy approach. All that can be done prior to marriage. And even if you're in marriage and been married for a long time and you're in a sexless marriage, maybe there's an underlying clause to that you never really explored and never really peeled back the layers to look at. Why is it like this? I mean, I love you, we love each other, right? So, and just start exploring why that is going on, because it kind of is one of those things. Like I said, it's in the top 5. Reasons why couples divorce. But you were talking about planning,
right?
And it is biblical to plan.
But we planned whether we realized it or not. I remember I went on a fast.
Okay.
From sex. I'm not for sure if that's what you call it, but it was 6 years until I got married.
Like you were celibate.
Yeah, there you go. But that's still a fast. I denied my flesh.
Okay.
I was celibate and didn't have sex for 6 years.
Okay.
But then once me and Elena got married, obviously, we broke that fast. Right?
We made up for love.
Yeah, we broke that fast, right?
That's great.
But for me, it had been so long. I had to process. And I had to plan. Like, I can't just lay in bed and do that. This is not something I'm gonna just like
make your whole world.
Yeah, my world can't be centered around this. First of all, anybody that had sex, it's good, you enjoy it, it's pleasurable, and you just want to make sure that you don't get caught up in something and be addicted, and it's controlling you, it's leading you now, you're making decisions based on it, that is affecting relationships, and it's like, so we planned. I was like, we are not going to be laid up in bed. Obviously, our schedule wouldn't allow us to do that anywhere in our life, but I said, we can't do this. Do you remember that?
I do remember that conversation, and it was a little shocking at first because I don't know, it kind of took me by surprise, but as our life began to unfold together, I understood the importance of that conversation and why sex, like anything else, has its place.
Yes.
And just like anything else, anything in excess is not good,
That's true.
And so that conversation proved to be really vital, and it ended up being something good for us. And that particular conversation, but I think every couple should have a conversation when it comes to sex, if nothing else, so you can kind of know your partner's expectations.
Absolutely. I agree. And you can be on the same page. Every area of life, finances, raising your children, sex. Yeah. You should be on the same page.
You should be on the same page about it. And so the Bible does talk about being sexless, or taking a break from sex or whatever. And it's the scripture references 1 Corinthians chapter 7 verses 5 and 6. And I'll just go ahead and read it. Okay. It says, "Do not deprive each other of sexual relations unless..."
Do not deprive each other from sexual relationships. Okay.
You want to read it?
No, go ahead. Go. No, I just wanted to drive that home. Go ahead.
Unless you both agree to refrain.
Unless you both agree.
So you just go, okay.
Go ahead, man.
Weirdo. Unless you both agree to refrain from sexual intimacy for a limited time, so you can...
Limited time.
Wow. Okay.
So it shouldn't be forever, So God don't even agree with sexless marriages. So you 15% out there, whatever y'all do is not godly.
You step your game up.
You got to step your game up.
Okay. Let me just start over. Do not deprive each other of sexual relations unless you both agree to refrain from sexual intimacy for a limited time, so you can give yourselves more completely to prayer. Afterwards, you should come together again so that Satan won't be able to tempt you because of your lack of self-control. I say this as a concession, not as a command.
But I see two things.
Okay.
The Apostle Paul, which is the writer of the letter. He's sending to some recipients in Corinth, the church.
Yeah.
And he's telling them, hey, look, I don't want you to cause us to be in argument. Y'all need to be in agreement.
Yeah.
You shouldn't really refrain unless you have an agreement.
Yeah.
And it's only for a limited time. Why? Because sex can actually distract you from your prayer life, from what's priority, God. And then even with that, he says, I don't want you to just continue to do that. Don't be to the extreme. We're not going to have sex at all. We're going to just pray and fast and worship and read the Bible. No, because the enemy will use that, and then he may creep into your marriage, and then you begin to start being lustful and entertaining other individuals and people that are not your spouse. And so I agree, I mean, but there's a balance, obviously.
Yeah,
He's saying there's a balance. And so
there is a balance.
That's so good.
And it's not a command. It's not something that you have to do, is what he's saying. He's saying, hey, this is probably just a good, let me just give you some good advice. Let me just give you, some pointers here. And I think that ultimately it's all in the spirit of having a healthy relationship.
Yes.
That balance between let's see God uninterrupted and let's seek one another uninterrupted.
Absolutely.
And so that being said, God honors sex within marriage. I know that God doesn't give us anything that's not good for us, right?
That's right.
And so, but he does always tell us, how to use sex or how to enjoy sex and anything in life. And like you said, the key to it all is balance. And so if you're in a sexless marriage, I suggest that you and your husband or you and your wife have a conversation. Bring it to the table. There shouldn't be anything that a couple can address together.
That's right.
And so that's what we wanted to talk about today.
Yeah, and that's a good topic.
Different little spin on it.
That's a good topic because sexless marriage, it needs to be addressed because maybe there's some unhealthy underlining situations that you haven't talked about and got down to the bottom of, and maybe an unresolved issue. So we are so grateful that you let us open up our lives, our marriage with you, and we thank you for going on a journey with us. We believe that every moment in marriage matters. It's building marriage equity. And so if you are married and you have been through experiences like most marriages, help someone else. Because that's all we want you to do. So rate, review, share this with anyone that you know would really gain and get some value out of this. We thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
God bless you, and continue to subscribe and share this with everyone.
Yes. God bless.